the flash flood warning. That's where we're watching rainfall rates that are quite high at this point. And I can show you those rainfall rates now along this band of showers that has pushed into the metro area. As it pops up here, it's taken a few moments to kind of get itself together here, but within the last 15-20 minutes or so, we've had rainfall rates pretty high. Well, the rainfall product here is having some trouble updating. We'll pop this back on now, and I can do it a different way and show you just how hard the rain is coming down. Clicking on the rainfall rates here right in the city, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches per hour, probably seeing a bit more than that, just depends on where I click. But yeah, you can kind of get a picture of why we're dealing with flash flooding, because when I zoom in, you can see those pockets of those deep reds over City Park, over Metairie, over uptown New Orleans, even for Kenner, parts of River Ridge, and on the west bank of the river. Those reds, those deep reds, are where we're seeing the rainfall rates probably above 3 inches per hour. So we know what that can do. I know where I'm clicking here is only saying about 1 to 2, but I think those pockets of those reds are probably producing rainfall rates higher than that. It just really depends on where you click. And I'm not clicking the right exact zone here, but the National Weather Service has issued that flash flood warning because they are seeing, again, those rainfall rates of anywhere from 3 to 4 inches an hour, which is what, of course, we are seeing too on our radar picture here. So flash flood warning continues for the metro area. We'll continue to monitor these storms throughout the course of the afternoon. We will have more storms over the next few hours. I can walk you through it with Precision Cast to get you an idea of what's to come. More scattered showers continuing until about dinner time tonight. So I think we'll have the soggy sort of setup going into the rest of the afternoon. And then by tonight, by dinner time, I think things will start to trend down. However, we'll still have wet roads. We'll still have some standing water from all of the showers and storms we have received today so far. So if you're just joining us now, it is 3:16. There is a flash flood warning in effect for the New Orleans metro area because of the heavier showers. We've got rainfall rates anywhere from 2 to 4 inches per hour, which is certainly a lot of rain. So we could be dealing with some nuisance street flooding across the city of New Orleans, across Jefferson Parish, St. Charles Parish as well, right in that metro corridor through the Twin Span. Some heavier rain up through Slidell and St. Tammany Parish. Covington and Mandeville also dealing with some heavy rain across the causeway, and some steady and soaking showers for the North Shore and South Mississippi. So we're dealing with heavy rain, and that's really the biggest thing, the risk for flooding throughout the afternoon and into about dinner time tonight. Now, if we look farther to the west, there are some showers off towards Baton Rouge and Lafayette. I think some drier air is going to start to work in, and we'll see rain calming down and kind of winding down, getting into tonight for the most part, but there could be some rain as we go into this evening. Not as heavy, though, as what we're seeing right now. This is basically the worst of the rain happening currently across the city of New Orleans and the metro area now, from Des Allemands to Luling to Laplace to New Orleans and points east into New Orleans east. And then, of course, looking ahead to St. Tammany Parish, we are transitioning over to the North Shore and seeing some heavy rain from Covington to Mandeville and Madisonville over to Slidell, and even into South Mississippi, seeing some heavy rain. So that's what we're monitoring for you on this Friday afternoon. We'll continue to watch it for you here live on air for the next few minutes to kind of get you knowing about what's happening. I know a lot of people want to get home and get their weekend started, and it might be a bit more of a messy kind of drive on the way home if you're picking your kids up from school. If you can delay it just a few moments, the rain is coming down pretty hard across the city, and we know what a trouble that could be when you're trying to drive from point A to point B. So that's what we're watching here. Heavy soaking downpours, flash flooding possible across the city of New Orleans. And for Jefferson Parish, that does include Metairie. That flash flood warning does include Metairie and Kenner and all of New Orleans, and even for parts of the West Bank, though the showers are starting to let up on the West Bank, and the heaviest of the rain is now happening right across JP and into Orleans Parish for the city. Heavy rain also for St. Charles Parish and points westward towards Laplace. But this batch of storms is kind of, has some movement to it. It's not just going to sit over the city. It has been lingering now for the last several minutes, but it'll continue to kind of make its way more to the north, but then transition more so over the lake. We're already seeing some heavier showers over the lake and heavier showers for the North Shore and South Mississippi, and I think we'll continue to see more rain over the next several hours. So, of course, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you do stay weather aware throughout, about dinner time today, since we're dealing with the heavy rain and the flash flooding. You're staying vigilant out there. Your route that you typically take, home from work and from school may be impacted. So you might take a little bit longer to get home tonight. Just make sure you drive carefully and safely. Make sure your family and friends know if they're going to be out and about on the road, that they know what to do, and give them a call and let them know they'll be dealing with some rain over the next few hours. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you'd like to watch more, we're going to transition now over to our digital stream, our online platform, social media, things like that, to keep on top of this. We do want to send you back to regular programming, but if you want to keep watching, we'll be on YouTube, Facebook, places like that, WWL Plus, online, on digital, on streaming, and we'll be switching over to that now in just a few moments. So thanks so much for watching.
This has been a severe weather alert from WWL Weather, sponsored by Egan Insurance Agency.
All right, thanks so much for sticking with us. It is 3:20 on your Friday afternoon. We're still tracking the really heavy rain across the South Shore and the North Shore too, but there is a flash flood warning still in effect for the city of New Orleans, and that also includes parts of Jefferson Parish, Metairie, and Kenner, all of New Orleans into New Orleans East. This is going to be continuing to impact the city over the next several minutes. We've got heavy downpours from Kenner to Metairie. We can surely see some isolated street flooding possible because of how much rain we've gotten over the last hour or so, and it's really picked up in intensity. I did want to slide over here and see if I can pull up a map that could tell us if there's any reported street flooding. Now, I do want to let you know, nothing popping up yet, but of course we know that changes on a dime, but nothing to report just as of yet. The rainfall totals, though, adding up. I was mentioning earlier, we probably have rainfall rates 2 to 4 inches an hour, so quite a lot of heavy rain happening now. The product I wanted to show you before wasn't popping up, but now it is. So these are our rainfall rates. Yeah, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches an hour. That is a lot for sure. So 1 to 2 inches in about 15 minutes. That can surely add up. And so we're going to be dealing with some nuisance flooding probably in those usual spots. The roads that take on water pretty easily. You may have to, find a different route on the way home from work, especially if you get done work early. It's Friday. I know that's pretty common. A lot of people get to leave work early on Fridays or have to pick their kids up early. So a little bit of an impacted drive for us this afternoon. But I think as we get closer to dinner time, closer to 6 o'clock or so, the models are indicating that storm coverage should be winding down. So it's really a midday problem into about 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, but after 6, models showing that things are kind of winding down, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about what's happening now. There's a flood advisory that has just been issued for Slidell. So Slidell, of course, is getting in on some heavy rain, some heavy downpours for Slidell and St. Tammany Parish. So it is going to be not such a great drive across the Twin Span, across the causeway right now because of the heavier showers. But that's the biggest threat, is flooding. I don't really think we're going to have to worry about any severe storms. Of course, these storms could give us some brief wind gusts up to maybe 20 or 30 miles per hour, but the severe risk has gone down quite a bit. I think it's more now of a rain and flooding thing we'll have to watch for parts of the area going into the next couple of hours. But it's not going to last all night and into the night, and luckily these storms have some movement to them. So while they are pretty impactful now and dumping quite a bit of rain, they should be getting on out of here kind of shortly. It's not going to be an all-night event for us, but still nothing to kind of shake a stick at because the rain is really coming down. Those deep reds across the city surely mean that we're going to be dealing with some big puddles and big ponding on some of those roads going into the next few hours. So make sure you drive carefully. Even as the rain kind of tapers off, we'll probably have some standing water getting into tonight. So one more kind of look and then of what's happening currently, and then I'll walk it forward in time so you can get a picture of what's happening later today. And then of course this weekend, we've got a big weekend ahead, Mother's Day, so a lot to look forward to. And this is probably going to be the worst of the rain that we see happening currently. So if that makes you feel any better, the weekend's not going to be as bad as what we're seeing now. So we got the heavy showers from Thibodaux to Laplace, River Parishes, heavy rain across the city of New Orleans and Jefferson Parish, Metairie, Kenner, also the West Bank, seeing some soaking showers, but that batch of rain is starting to push more to the north. So if you're on the West Bank now, not seeing as much rain as you are on the East Bank. Heavy rain for Lake Pontchartrain and into Mandeville, Madisonville, and Covington. St. Tammany Parish dealing with some heavy downpours. Slidell, The Twin Span, also New Orleans east, getting a big batch of rain moving in there. Heavy showers over Lake Bourne, moving out over the coastal waters and into St. Bernard Parish. Also, we're dealing with some heavy rain in South Mississippi. Steady and soaking rain for South Mississippi, Pearl River County, in Picayune along I-59. Bay St. Louis, coastal Mississippi, heavy rain. Heavier showers for Washington Parish and St. Tammany. And also Hammond getting some steady and soaking rain now. Northern Tangipahoa Parish getting some breaks in the showers, which is good news. So it's going to be a wet and soggy next couple of hours, but as I was mentioning, if I walk it forward in time with Precision Cast, it kind of gives you an idea of what's to come. So the model obviously not exactly perfect when it comes to the placement of what's happening currently, but just to give you a rough idea of what this model is showing is that, you know, once we get about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock tonight, showers will start to really taper off. I think by later tonight, yeah, we could have some lingering rain, especially on the North Shore tonight, but we'll get some drier breaks working in there. Some drier air is starting to work into this system, and that should help rain taper off slightly going into tonight. It's not going to be completely down to zero tonight, but I think the bulk of the rain will be, you know, happening now into the next couple hours or so, 3 hours from now. But by dinner time, things really start to taper off. Could we see a few lingering showers tonight and overnight? Yes, it's possible because we have this persistent upper level low pressure that's going to sit over the Gulf Coast this weekend, and that'll kind of keep clouds in the mix tomorrow and Sunday. The chance for a few scattered showers in the mix going into the weekend, but it's not going to be a washout at all. This weekend will not be a washout whatsoever. But tomorrow, could see a few spotty showers, some clouds, a few breaks of sun on Saturday. Sunday, pretty similar with that low pressure around. We'll have some clouds, a few breaks of sun on Sunday, a couple spotty showers during the day Sunday, not a whole lot. And you know what, with the clouds around, it's not going to be that hot this weekend. Temperatures will be probably in the mid-70s each afternoon, which is another good thing. But you can't rule out a few passing showers going into the afternoon. So this is the system, what we're dealing with now at the surface. Heavy rain, of course, across central Louisiana, southeast Louisiana, and South Mississippi, but this system is trekking off to the east gradually and slowly, and some drier air is going to start working in behind what's happening there. So that'll help taper off the showers a bit later into the evening tonight. 69 degrees. You can obviously see the rain really coming down in the French Quarter on Bourbon Street. People have been running and dodging the rain on Bourbon Street with their umbrellas. Some people have nothing and they're just dodging the showers. People have ponchos. Hopefully you have your rain gear and you're taking it easy on the roads. You know, it's easy to get frustrated when it's raining, but make sure you drive slowly and carefully going into the early part of your evening and into your late afternoon. It's a bit breezy, winds from the north-northeast, 10 to 20 miles per hour or so. Current temperatures have been cool in the 60s and 70s because of the clouds and showers. So far we've picked up a couple inches of rain. We probably could see maybe 1 or 2 more inches of rain the rest of tonight. So certainly dealing with some isolated pockets of street flooding. We've mentioned that was a risk for today. It's a low-level risk. It's not going to be a problem everywhere, but some of us could see some street flooding still at that marginal risk of excessive rainfall today. That's really our biggest thing, is heavy rain. I think the risk for severe weather has really dwindled. We are still being highlighted, of course, by that severe weather risk. It's pretty low. We had a few stronger storms earlier today, but the strong storms will be not really the biggest thing. It's the heavier showers. So severe risk, very low for the rest of today. And then tomorrow, getting an idea temperature-wise, mid-70s, partly sunny, few spotty showers, looking good Saturday. We're not going to be complaining about the weather this weekend. Mother's Day forecast also mid-70s, a little sun, few little showers, like I mentioned, not a whole lot. So here's the persistent low pressure over the Gulf Coast, which is why we've got the active weather, the wet weather through today. It came together with a surface system. We've got plenty of rain to work with, plenty of ingredients to work with for bad weather today, which we are seeing. But the low pressure, it's just going to kind of hang out over the Gulf Coast in the coming days. And that'll keep us on the cloudier side and keep some disturbances, in the atmosphere that can help fire off some showers Saturday and Sunday. But it's not going to be a washout. That finally pulls away, and then a ridge of high pressure will build in behind it, and that will bring us some drier weather next week. Finally, and we'll see more sunshine, but it also comes with a big warm up. It will be a lot warmer next week. Borderline hot with plenty of sunshine. Temperatures will be getting into the 80s, well into the 80s, and probably seeing some of our first 90s going into later next week. So that means 90s making a return for later next week. So a big change on the horizon from all this wet weather we've been seeing. We get hot and dry next week. Now, before we go, I did want to just leave you with one more snapshot of what's happening currently on radar. Actually, there is a tornado warning that has just been issued for Jefferson Parish. It has just been issued for Jefferson Parish. So I do want to pop in here and bring you the absolute latest. Okay, so this batch of storms has been kind of rotating. It's had this motion to it, but it didn't look alarming. But now there is a tornado warning in effect. So it does look a little bit more suspicious now at this point. So there's a tornado warning in effect now for Jefferson Parish. We're going to hop back on live on TV. What was that?
This is a severe weather alert from WWL Weather, sponsored by Egan Insurance Agency.
It is 3:30. We're here to bring you the latest. There's a tornado warning in effect for parts of Jefferson Parish, which does include Metairie and Ketter. So this tornado warning is in effect for Jefferson Parish. That includes Metairie and Kenner. So if you are hearing my voice and you are in Metairie or in Kenner or anywhere in Jefferson Parish right now on the East Bank, you want to get into your safe place away from windows and doors. I'm going to switch over to our storm relative velocity to give you an idea of where that suspected tornado is. So it's in this red blinking box. When I zoom in, you can see that this is a suspected area of rotation in Metairie near Willowdale on Cleary Avenue. This is where it's possibly, we could be seeing a possible tornado. This is near Lakeside Hospital. This is right along I-10 near Bonneville Place, just west of Bonneville Place. This is Cleary Avenue where the suspected area of rotation is. It's between I-10 and West Metairie Avenue near Woodlawn, really specifically Cleary Avenue in this area near Turnbull in this general area. And we know that a lot of people live here. A lot of people, have friends and family here. This is where the suspected tornado is. So if you are hearing my voice and you live in Metairie, get into your safe place now, away from windows and doors. This tornado warning was just issued within the last few moments. So if you are hearing my voice now, this area of rotation is right here in Metairie in Jefferson Parish. So getting into our products here, this is the storm relative velocity, which shows you where the winds are possibly rotating. And where they are is just south of I-10 in Metairie, and that's near Cleary Avenue. And that's current, this is a current reading right near and right along Napoleon Avenue here. We'll be watching as the radar scan continues to update. The newest scan did come in. This is looking weak. This looks like a weak area of rotation. Still something to really be vigilant about and to stay on top of. But this area of rotation is not strong. It is weak, meaning that, yes, there may be some rotation aloft in the atmosphere coming from the storm. It does not mean for sure it is reaching the ground, but you still want to take this seriously and just wait this storm out. Away from windows, away from doors. In an interior room of your house is the best place to go. A bathroom, a closet, something like that, just to wait this storm out, because it did pop up suddenly. We've had this rotating band of showers that did not look, incredibly suspicious, but it's easy for these storms to kind of quickly spin up and turn into, a possible tornado. The silver lining is the reds and the greens, they're not tightly it's not a tight couplet. They're not tightly placed together, which is a good sign, meaning that the storm itself is not very strong. It is on the weaker side. And if I pull up a different product and show you kind of what we're looking at here, this is a rotation tracker. So when we look at the rotation tracker, this is kind of the suspected area of where a tornado could possibly be. So this suspected area of rotation is weak. So it is weak on our maps here. It's not jumping off the charts. That's always a good sign. But you still want to kind of hunker down, take it easy, and wait for this storm to pass by. I'll switch back now to our other product where you can get an idea of where the winds are rotating in this general vicinity now, right along I-10. And just south of I-10 along Napoleon Avenue and Louisiana 3152 near Lakeside Hospital, Woodlawn Avenue. This is exactly where we're watching that possible tornado at this point. So you do want to get inside safely, away from windows and doors, and to take it easy outside at this point. So we're going to continue to monitor this storm. It is 3:34. If you're just joining us now, there is a tornado warning in effect for Jefferson Parish, which does include Metairie. It does include Metairie, and this storm is moving westward. In a highly populated area, this is something to really focus on and to pay attention to, and to make sure you are staying safe right now and waiting this storm out and making sure you are good. And we just want to, of course, bring you the absolute latest when it comes to the updates. We're going to continue to monitor this storm. I will say that the real silver lining in this, like I was just mentioning, the area of rotation, while you can see it, is not tight. It's not jumping off the charts. So while there is a possible tornado maybe aloft, it's not a guarantee it's reaching the ground, and the radar data kind of indicates that possibly it is, it's a weak area of rotation, and it's not, incredibly strong, and that is always a good sign to kind of look at. Now, I did want to pull up a different product to see if there's any signs of debris being lofted in the air. Nothing is popping off the map here, which is another good sign. Nothing is showing up here on the map. We'll watch it, we'll see if that changes, but as of right now, there are no signs of debris or anything like that getting popped up or flown into the air, things like that. So no signs of that. Another good thing there. I'll switch over to a different radar product. So we've been watching this really heavy batch of showers and storms. There has been some motion to that batch of storms, which is why there has been a tornado warning initiated, for the fact that you can kind of see that it had this rotation to it. So as it did, it kind of wrapped up into itself. The storm was able to wrap up into itself and is possibly producing a tornado. But like I keep kind of wanting to be on top of, is that this suspected area of rotation is not strong, but you still want to wait it out. Wait this storm out in your safe place, away from windows and doors. This is along I-10, just south of I-10 in Metairie. This is Napoleon Avenue. This is Lakeside Hospital, Argonne Street, Transcontinental Drive. We know all these places, and this is where the suspected tornado could possibly be, in this general area. Near Louisiana, 3152. Near Transcontinental, Lakeside Hospital, Argonne Street, Garden Street, Wabash, near Lakeside, and again, I-10 is right here. So we know exactly where we're at and where this possible area of rotation is. So if you're hearing my voice now and you live here, get to your safe place now. Or if you have any friends or family and you know this is where they live, go to school, or where they're at, let them know that this is what is happening now. So if we can go back in time the last 15 minutes, how this kind of quickly spun up over Metairie, over Jefferson Parish, you can get an idea of where that area of possible tornado is at this point at 3:37 p.m. So if you're just joining us now, again, there is a tornado warning in effect for Jefferson Parish in Metairie. Metairie, you want to be on high alert now just to be safe and wait this storm out. Stay indoors. Don't try to go out and see this. Make sure if your kids are getting released from school, they know what's going on. They know exactly what is happening. Make sure to give your friends and family a phone call and let them know that this is a serious situation, not to take lightly, even though our product here, our radar, and what I'm seeing is that it is not, incredibly strong. There could still possibly be some rotation and possibly a tornado. Is it reaching the ground? We don't know yet, because it's not popping up here that it would be indicative of such a scenario. So that is one silver lining, I will say. And I know we're getting kind of ourselves together to bring you the absolute latest on what's happening here in the studio. We've got everyone kind of running around, gathering themselves together to get you kind of the latest updates on what they're seeing on the ground, things like that. So I do want to kind of show you that traditional radar product to give you an idea of what's going on. We've got some heavy rain, a strong storm has pushed into Metairie and pushed into Jefferson Parish, heavy rain and gusty winds and a possible tornado. So you do not want to go out and try to check this out. You want to wait this storm out away from windows and doors if you live in Metairie. And the storm itself is moving westward. So that possible area of rotation is moving towards the west. And you can see, like I've been kind of, pulling back again and again, is this storm relative velocity, to look at the winds and to see that it's not really a big, threat jumping off the chart. It's not really a tight rotation that we're seeing, but we don't want to ignore it. We want to stay vigilant and we want to stay on top of it, in case the storm does decide to tighten up. But, this is a good thing to see. When they're far apart, it's less indicative of a tornado on the ground, which is always something, of course, that we want to see. But we're going to watch this. We're going to continue to be on top of this tornado warning. Make sure you're in your safe place. This warning does include Metairie and Kenner. This is the red blinking box here. That is the warning for the possible tornado. So from Metairie to Kenner, you want to get in your safe place, wait this storm out just to see what it does within the next 15 minutes or so as we continue to monitor this situation. I did want to kind of go on and see if there are any updates that I can bring you online, if there's any reports of anyone calling in or things of that nature. Things have not been popping up. No new information when it comes to updates. No one seeing anything. We'll let you know if that changes. No one on the ground calling us or anything like that. But of course, we'll be on top of that. Luckily, this is a broad area of rotation, so that's always a good sign. We'll be watching this to see if things change, but for now, we're going to be on top of this tornado warning.
Alexa, it almost looks like it's Katie Moore here in the studio now, and it almost looks like on the radar there that things seem to be changing, or that it seems to be decreasing in strength a little bit. Is that the case?
It does. So that is, we never want to downplay a tornado warning, of course, but I want to say that, like Katie just mentioned, it does not look strong. It does not look like it's even really a tornado. These things change, rapidly, but right now the way it looks has really decreased in intensity. It looks like the winds are pretty separate, and when the reds and greens are far apart, which is the winds, when they're far apart, that means it's less likely there's a tornado. So right now it looks like there is a very small likelihood that there is a tornado at this point. It is a broad area of rotation, and as the greens fade and drop out, that's an even better sign that things do not look that serious. Things do not look that bad.
Okay, and when it was at its peak, that is a very populated area. That's almost near Clearview Mall area. Lakeside Hospital, you mentioned, is in the area where this first started to form. We still don't know if a tornado formed or if anything touched down. But again, that is a very populated area with a lot of homes and businesses.
Exactly, and that's why we still, of course, want to be on top of it and take it seriously, because we have the warning out there. But the way the data is coming in, it does not look like there is a strong, setup. There's not really a big indication that there is a tornado. It looks like things are really weak. And earlier, a few moments ago, when it looked a little better pronounced, it was still radar indicated. There was nothing popping up on our debris tracker, meaning there was nothing being thrown into the air. Good sign. The way that the greens and the reds, or the winds, earlier when it was at its peak, so to say, still weren't that close together, which is a good sign. Weren't that bright. It was kind of just a weak sort of thing. And since it is so populated and there's so much going on right here, this is like the heart of the town, of the heart of Jefferson Parish, the heart of where we live. It's always important to initiate these warnings just to be safe, just to play it safe, even though it doesn't really look like it's jumping off the charts, which is always a good sign. We still want to initiate them and have the warnings out, and which the National Weather Service, rightly did. The National Weather Service initiates these warnings, and they did so because the area is so populated. They saw a broad rotation. They wanted to make sure, if it did tighten up, which sometimes that does happen, they wanted to have it covered, but it has not. At this point, it looks like we're just dealing with some heavy rain across Jefferson Parish, Kenner, and Metairie now.
As you mentioned, this is the peak time for kids getting out of school. Lots of people in carpool lines at this hour. So is there anything that they need to know right now? Secondly, how long is that tornado warning going to continue? When does it expire? So
right now, the biggest thing is the heavy rain. I think the heavy rain and the possible street flooding is our biggest concern. Now, the tornado warning, of course, is still going to remain in effect for us until 4:15. So we still have some time on it. Even though the warning is going to be in effect until 4:15, it looks like things are weakening quite a bit, basing it on our radar picture. Sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah, so it does look like it's weakening quite a bit.
Yeah, sorry, we're getting information from our producers and our directors in the back, so we did want to step off the screen here.
Yeah, and it looks like, you know, as you mentioned, there was a lot of green and red interplay there on the radar, which is, I gauge the weather based on the colors on this map, which I think that's my non-meteorological knowledge. However, we've seen enough of these that you can take a look at it and see that those two colors and the interplay is not quite what it was a few minutes ago. Bringing in now Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin as well. What are you thinking right now as we look at this radar?
I mean, exactly what Alexa had been showing, and kind of going back in time on radar here. This is what we're showing, and again, this is not something that we commonly show. It's the velocities. What Doppler radar is able to do is show us what the winds are doing in a storm. And when you look at the reds and the greens are moving toward our radar site, which is up in Hammond. The reds are the winds that are moving away. When you see them close together like that, that's what we call a couplet, meaning the winds are moving toward and away from the radar, indicating rotation. As you had mentioned, Katie, this is a highly populated area, and just before I came on, I was scanning social media. I've not seen anything posted saying that there has been an observed tornado, a funnel cloud in the sky, and this is an extremely populated part of Jefferson Parish, especially as it continues through the heart of Metairie. And as Alexa really perfectly described, how when you see that green color, that means the wind is moving toward the radar site. It really weakened as it moved from kind of the Marrero area, may have, again, that rotation jumped the river, moved through Old Jefferson, deeper into Metairie, and is now approaching and eventually toward Kenner, if it does hold together. Kind of we're in the Bizenay area. Here's David Drive and West Napoleon, so south of Bizenay, kind of a continuing toward kind of the Westgate subdivision here as it moves farther toward Kenner. This is moving very quickly, and it does look like, based on the returns here, that it is a weakening. If there was anything, it's looking more likely that it probably was on the west bank into Old Jefferson, perhaps, and then as it moved further into Metairie, that's really when we started to see it weaken. So I'm curious if the chat that we have up with the Weather Service, if they're saying, yes, they're saying that radar indicated that the returns are still very broad. If the trends continue, because it does look like it is weakening, the Weather Service is going to cancel it looks like they will cancel it any moment. They're telling us to all stand by. They're going to continue the warning. Okay, they're continuing it. Interesting that they've decided just to continue it, or this may be a kind of an automated product from the Weather Service. I'm sorry, I'm kind of walking off camera here as I'm looking at the information from the Weather Service. So we've got a chat that we have with the Weather Service folks where some of it is actually being entered in by the meteorologists themselves, where we have kind of a one-on-one discussion with those folks. And then there's also automated products. So it looks like right after they said they are going to analyze this, it looks like they may allow this to, or they might expire it early, because it really is showing no longer any signs of that couplet at all as it moves deeper into the Westgate subdivision. And then eventually, once it crosses Roosevelt, it is in Kenner. So it does look like they will probably expire this. And notice they've already shrunk down the size, because if there is any broad rotation, it is right in through here. Now, and as Alexa said, we don't want to downplay that, especially even as we watch the returns here. Don't want to downplay it necessarily. There's still going to be some strong winds. So even if there is no longer, if there was ever a tornado on the ground, doesn't look like there would be one any longer. These storms are still going to be associated with some very strong winds. So damage is damage, whether or not it's from the remnants of a rotating thunderstorm and what had been possibly a tornado and no longer the case, or maybe not necessarily straight line winds, but still some strong winds associated with this remnant rotation. So I'm just waiting to see, as one of the folks over the Weather Service said, doesn't look like, they at least indicated, doesn't look like they'll be going with this warning for much longer, kind of telling everyone to stand by. And then the automated product from the Weather Service kept the warning going, but notice that it did kind of shrink it in size, as this would be where any remnant rotation is. But as Alexa was showing you, first went on the air, really, this wasn't really showing those signs of certainly intensifying. Once we went on the air as the warning was issued, actually we kind of continued through a discussion of the flood warning that is in effect for the metro area. This is when it was prompting a tornado warning that originated around Marrero, kind of jumped the river, and that's about when it looked at its strongest, kind of around the bend in the river here south of Old Jefferson, kind of around 9 Mile Point, and then continued north as it moved deeper into then more the east bank of Jefferson Parish. It had already started weakening. I've got this on a 30-minute timeline or time loop here, and you saw where that green coloring indicating that couplet as it moved from around 9 Mile Point into Old Jefferson, Metairie, and then continued west toward Kenner. It looks like it has fallen apart. So kind of waiting to see whether or not the Weather Service is going to just allow this one to expire, or excuse me, I should say, will expire it early, or just keep it up for the next 15 minutes or so. Looking at the radar returns, this is what you're more accustomed to seeing when we're looking at radar. There is more moderate to pockets of heavier rainfall. This was kind of like a broad circulation if we were looking at radar a moment ago. Alexa? Okay, so they have canceled it. So yeah, canceling the tornado warning, rotation even on the airport radar, not even strong enough, and it's moving out of the box. So they have gone ahead and expired that tornado warning. So no longer a tornado warning in place. You just saw that lifted. Still do though have, and want to highlight the fact that from the West Bank across the city and deep into Jefferson Parish, this entire area highlighted, while it's not really raining quite nearly as hard on the West Bank, still some intense rainfall rates where there is still a flood warning, flash flood warning in effect. So this is probably not the best time as most kids are now leaving school. You just had that tornado warned region of Metairie, as well as some very intense rainfall. So expect some street flooding over the next couple of hours. Even going to still mention on the West Bank, because even though the rain may have subsided there, still with the amounts of rainfall that we had seen, if there was any street flooding, it just takes some time for all of that to naturally drain. As far as the East Bank is concerned, from the city into Metairie and Jefferson Parish, still an ongoing flood threat with these moderate to heavy downpours that will likely continue for a little while longer. Let me put this one into motion for the last half hour just to kind of give you an idea of where these storms have been moving. There was kind of this little feature that we were watching of rotation deeper into the more bayou region earlier in the day, and with that just kind of broad rotation, it's not a surprise that there was a quick little spin up. Again, whether or not it actually developed a tornado, this was a radar detected tornado, meaning there was no observed tornado. And I don't know if, Alexa, if you're kind of monitoring social media at all, or if the Weather Service in their chat is saying that they've seen any images.
Nothing. Yeah.
Again, just kind of interesting that for a tornado that supposedly moved from Marrero across Old Jefferson, Metairie, and toward Kenner, and so far we have not had any pictures or videos come in of even a funnel cloud, just leads me to believe that maybe this was not a tornado on the ground. Now, I'm saying that with the information that we're getting at the moment, or I should say the lack of information that we're getting at the moment, that at least on social media, normally there's quite a buzz if we're getting images of funnel cloud or tornado on the ground, and we have not seen anything like that. So hopefully that ends up being the case, that this was not a confirmed tornado. Again, radar technology is such that we can already pick up that rotation long before anything even reaches the ground, if at all. And what we have seen in just the last several years is we do get more tornado warnings because our technology has gotten better. There was a time where tornado warnings were only issued if one was observed. At that point, it's kind of too late. So our technology definitely better for picking up on the rotation. Sometimes we do see storms that may be overwarned because warnings are issued when that rotation kind of shows signs of continuing for several passes of the radar site. So I'm kind of keeping my eye on to Alexa, nothing on social media.
Scanning social media, not seeing any updates. No,
okay.
no new information.
We've got our chat with the Weather Service folks, and they're not saying that there was anything that they have observed. So I think we can probably safely kind of put that tornado warning to rest. We do still have the heavy rainfall moving across much of the metro area, and including Jefferson Parish as well, for this moderate to pockets of heavier rainfall. The flash flood warning in effect, that'll be in effect for the next couple of hours. And I'll widen out to show you what has been, for the most part, kind of an uneventful day. For most of the area, it's been more of the light, moderate rain with some pockets of heavier downpours. They do thankfully move, so nothing just sits for any length of time. If the showers do move, while you might get a quick accumulation, it's not a persistent rainfall. So these are moving as they progress through the rest of this afternoon and into the evening. And the good news is modeling shows that we should be settling down later this evening and tonight. tonight, and far less rain is expected. A few showers are expected, but far less rainfall as we continue on through the weekend. So we'll continue to monitor for any other little quick spin-up tornadoes. It's interesting with these type of an event that, the risk of severe weather was actually non-existent for much of our area. The only area that the Storm Prediction Center had placed under even a low-end threat of severe weather kind of included just the Bogalusa area. More than anything, a surface low that is off to our east is where you were likely to see maybe a little bit more of the severe weather, more toward Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and points eastward from there. And there really wasn't much of an issue for us. But again, if it ends up being that we did not see a tornado on the ground, then of course we had no severe weather during the day today. But with these type of systems, it's difficult to completely rule out even one or two little quick spin-ups that are always possible, especially along the Gulf Coast, with occasionally, as we saw earlier during the noon hour, what likely was a water spout kind of passing across the Venice Pilot Town area. And then inland, we really didn't have anything until that quick little spin-up around Jefferson Parish. So hopefully that wasn't anything, and so far I'm not seeing anything coming in from the National Weather Service saying that anything has been relayed to them. Even if these weren't observed by the public, police, emergency management are usually very vigilant during these type of events, and they will immediately relay that information to the Weather Service. And if this had passed over Metairie, Marrero, kind of the heart of Jefferson Parish, and we've not had any observed reports of damage or anything that was observed as a funnel cloud or tornado, it likely, and we'll see as we go through the next couple of hours if anything is relayed into us, it looks like this was not a tornado. Thankfully, again, that was the case. We will continue to monitor the situation through the rest of the afternoon, but we will have quieting conditions later on this evening and tonight. We're going to have a full look. We'll cut into programming if necessary, but a full look at the forecast coming up on WW Louisiana at 5. For now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin.
This has been a severe weather alert from WWL.